everybody, I'm Karen Palmer here at the 100-year anniversary Georgia Beekeepers Association. And this year, since we can do it online, we can do it from anywhere. So I'm here to bring it to you from the beach at sunset. But since we can't really do beekeeping at the beach, let's flip into the bee yard. Welcome to the bee yard. We travel fast on the internet. It sure is hot in Georgia. Luckily, we just had a quick rain shower, so it's cooled things off just a little bit. But normally I'm out here sweating my butt off. But I did want to take this time to show you a little bit more about beekeeping on the cheap and how to make it more practical. So when my husband and I first got started, we took a great class at Lake Country Beekeepers Association. We learned about pest control management, how to install our packages, and how to take care of our bees. What we didn't learn was just how much money beekeeping could cost. There's so many gadgets and gizmos and who's-its and whatnots and ways to spend money that we didn't even dream of. And the other thing we found out was that honey money is really just a big old myth. And it really takes a lot of energy and time to extract honey. So what we ended up doing was giving most of it away to family and friends. And when we lost our first hives to inexperience and wax moth, we decided that if we were going to stay in beekeeping, we really needed to figure out ways to cut costs. And so we took our hives, our original hives, which we now call on our yard our Morgan Originals, and we used those for dimensions and just to make sure our stuff was going to fit right. So what I'm hoping to do here is teach you how to make beekeeping more of a hobby and less of an addiction by cutting costs and making it more cost effective. So when do-it-yourselfers talk about projects, most of the time we talk about recycling material. We call it upcycling. And it's taking old material and turning it into a new product. So that's what we're doing with our style of Langstroth boxes. We take our waste construction material and turn them into bee boxes. And being cheap really isn't just a hobby, it's a way of life. It's a lifestyle. So we collect things and bring things home that still have use, and we turn them into new things. One of the things that you can do is save your nails, straighten them back out, reuse screws, and reuse stuff that looks like it should be junk, but really it can make just something new, like a bee box. And these boxes might not look pretty, but they are practical. So I would recommend trying this on your own. When the bees start complaining and sending me text messages, then I might consider making a prettier box. So let's get started. The style of box that we use in our yard is not a very pretty box, but it is practical, and so far it's worked. So I'm going to teach you how to make that. It's a typical Langstroth size box. We use pickets to attach the front boards. It doesn't require any special saws or skills, so we found it easy to make out of scraps. And so I'm going to show you how to make that here. We're going to use one of our Morgan Originals to take the measurements, and it looks like the inside is 19 1/8 by 7 1/2 with a depth of 10 inches. Move this. I've already got us started with the pieces. For the sides, we want the measurement of the inside. I've already attached these two pickets to it to make it easier. So we have a depth of 10 inches and the length 19 1/8. So we're going to use these other two pickets here to attach. The pickets again can be used as handles, and I like to cut them just slightly shorter than the box dimensions because it makes it where the box rests on the edge rather than the end. Position it where the pickets are right to the end of this. Now we can attach our faces. I've already attached the shelf to the inside. This is what the frames are going to rest on. I attached this with just a little tack, and sometimes it comes out the back, and I just hammer those in. The face is just the 7.5 inches plus the size of the pickets. You can adjust this for whatever size you end up using. Try and make sure my ends line up. Again, it really doesn't have to be pretty or perfect. The bees will fix it. And there we have it. We have a new 5-frame box that we can use. It fits nicely on top of the boxes that I have, and we just made it out of junk. You can get these and other materials for free. Just keep your eyes open and take it home when you see it available. You don't always need it, but when you do, you have it. One thing we've learned from doing bee removals is that the bees don't care what material their new home is made of. They will use a variety of different materials, and as long as the void they move into is a tight enough space to regulate the temperature, they'll move into it, and it doesn't matter what is in the way. When left to their own devices, they pick hollow trees and other non-conventional places. It's not just Langstroth boxes that the bees will live in. They pretty much will live in anything that they can regulate the temperature in. So for this presentation, we experimented with a totally free top bar hive. The only criteria we had for the hive was that it had to be totally free. We decided on pallets and banding blocks for the exterior because we knew that our local supply house left these out on a weekly basis. For the top, we used bricks to weight down a piece of tin that was cut to size. Under the top is more pallet pieces for a lid. And there's our bees. Let's see what we got inside. Inside, we use paint sticks for the bars. If you ask Lowe's or Home Depot or Walmart, they pass these out like ketchup packets. You don't even have to buy paint. Just tell them you need some. And inside you can see the bees hard at work. At first we thought the bees needed a comb guide because we thought that this would help them draw out better comb, straighter comb. So we attached these swizzle sticks to the top bars, and we got those free at the gas station. All we did was attach them to the top like so. But we found out that the bees rejected that and they were trying to build around it. So we pulled them off and stopped using them. If you don't know what the bees are gonna like and not like, just experiment with it. They'll tell you. And to populate it, we used a swarm of bees. So we didn't spend any money on this hive. Recycled 4x4s from old fences make excellent bee stands. But you can also make those out of any material that's long enough. You can span it and just put bricks underneath it. By using a combination of materials, you can get to your desired height. And you can even experiment with different heights. The height I prefer for my hive stands is just high enough to push a push mower underneath it. The bees can come and go as they like, and it keeps the grass from growing and obstructing their entrances. One thing I've learned is that you want to stack your blocks from side to side rather than standing up, because the ants will build mounds in it, so stacking it this way helps. If a hive needs a entrance feeder and it doesn't quite fit right, we use different types of material to prop it up. You can see on this one we use bricks. In this stand here we use the 2x4. You can use whatever material you find available and handy. When you're painting your boxes, you can use a variety of different colors. You can get these on sale as oops paints or mist-tinted paints. Don't worry if you have any gaps or cracks. Sometimes you make your equipment and it doesn't quite line up right. Maybe you missed a measurement, but that's okay. Just stick a piece of duct tape on it. Duct tape fixes everything. Normally, the bees will fix what they don't like. They seal up gaps and cracks with propolis. They often make entrances in places they want them. But if they do have cracks that are too big to seal up, just stick a piece of duct tape on it. You can afford it now since your equipment didn't cost anything to make. Another thing you can do to save money is make your own screen bottom boards. You can make several different styles. This is a really simple one to make and really requires no skill whatsoever. You can make it out of a variety of different thicknesses of material, styles of material. You can make solid bottom boards, screen bottom boards. For this one, well, really all you need to do is have 3 sides and an entrance. For this one, we used a piece of plywood turned sideways for the landing board. And then we just turned it around and put a screen on it. Well, this one we nailed on it with some roofing tacks, but you can staple it as well and just use a variety of different materials to get the style that you're looking for. If you're looking for a solid bottom board, you can use just a solid material. It's really that simple. And the scraps that you have left over, you can make queen cages out of, or entrance reducers. The only thing that should really cost money here is if you are using screen bottom boards, the roll of hardware cloth, you can get that. It's 1/8 inch hardware cloth, and you would get that from a hardware store. Cut off end pieces make excellent entrance reducers. All you have to do is remove the nails and staples that are in the way. One of the things that I like to do with my extra hardware cloth, that when I make bottom boards, I have extra pieces, and instead of having to get rid of them, I'll take a piece like this and I'll make queen cages out of it. All right, so this is the type of queen cage that I like to make for my queens. It's really just a piece of hardware cloth and a paper clip to hold it together. We have a plug on the top and a plug on the bottom that stays in, and it has a lot of room for a queen and plenty of attendants, and you don't need a sugar candy to introduce her to a new hive. So we're going to make that right now. What we're going to do is take a piece of hardware cloth. These are usually left over from making bottom boards, and we're going to cut about a 4-inch piece. There's no need to use a tape measure. It doesn't have to be precise, just approximate. So this is the piece we're going to use. Now what I like to do is take a picket. You can use any material, but a piece of wood works really well for making the plugs. So I'm going to take that and my scale saw, chunk it up. So now I have a plug for the top and a plug for the bottom. Now we're just going to wrap our wire around it, hardware cloth. What I like to do is take the piece and start from the back and wrap around. I take out the plug while I'm creasing it because it makes it easier to fold. And then I put it back in to make sure I get a tight fit. Then I'll cut off the excess piece with my snips. And then staple it together. Now all I need to do is take the top plug and put it in. We're going to drill a hole right here so that we can keep it in place with a paper clip. And a lot of people solder the back so it doesn't come open, but I find that it works just fine without doing anything. So let's go ahead and drill our hole and be done with this queen cage. And of course, this extra scrap we can make another queen cage out of. Take our paper clip. Now we have another nice handy queen cage to work with. We use plywood or something similar, like an old cabinet door or a shelf works well. Cut it to the size of the box for the inner cover, then we cover that with a rainproof covering like plastic shower liner or metal roofing. We have used election board signs in the past, but that holds water in the grooves and doesn't work well. I like to keep a container to put dry pine straw in. That way I always have it when I need it. I have a lot of pine trees here, and I usually get it if it's dry. I get it from right under the pine trees, and I leave this for when I need it. when it's wet. But it's a good thing to have a container just to keep the dry pine straw. One of the things I like to do is, it makes it more comfortable if I don't have any protective gear on. Most of the time the bees in Georgia are pretty docile and they're not aggressive like the Africanized bees that are in other parts of the country. So I find that going in without any protective gear, one, saves money, and two, it makes it more pleasant for me. And it also saves money on Gatorade. So that's another plus. If you're not comfortable going without a bee suit, you can always put on a veil, and you can buy a long sleeve white or light colored shirt. A button down is best. You can button it over your t-shirt. And if you're not comfortable going gloveless, you can use nitrile gloves. But for me, unless I'm going really deep into the hives and I'm doing some manipulations, if I'm just going to see if a hive is queenless or queen right, I don't need any protective gear. So let's check on this hive. You can see here, this is a combination of some of my hives right here and a Bruce Morgan, a Morgan original. Got a tin top. At first, when we were really cheap, we only used the top, and then we realized that in the hot summer heat it melted the wax. So we went ahead and started putting plywood underneath. That helped protect the bees a little bit more and made it where they could regulate the temperature. The top box, I don't really have anything going on yet. Let's go down one. And this box looks pretty full. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and go down one more. This looks like there's a pretty good bit of honey in here, and it weighs a pretty good bit. You can see here the frame is a foundationless frame. Another way to save money is once you take out a piece of foundation that's plastic foundation that's no longer good, you can either buy a new piece of foundation and put it in there, or you could just put it between two drawn pieces of comb and the bees will draw it out just like a regular piece of foundation. They actually like it better, and I find that they draw it out quicker. There was some larvae in there. I just want to look for some eggs. Here's again another piece of foundationless. Sometimes you have to be careful on how you turn these. You might have to give it some, especially on new ones, you might have to give it a little extra support when you're turning it so it doesn't fall out. The other way is to turn it on its side. Again, I'm just looking for eggs, which I see here. But since we're this deep in it, let's try and find the queen. I don't see her right off the bat, but I did see evidence, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this back together. She could be in the box that was above this one, so I'm really not going to waste my time looking. I'm just going to go ahead and put it back together.
If you have a strong colony, you should consider making a split. If you see swarm cells when you're doing inspections, don't cull the cells, make a split out of that. If you catch a swarm, you can get resources out of another hive. A frame of open brood and a frame of food will get them by until they can build their own. It also increases the likelihood of them staying in the box you provided. You can also learn how to graft queens and use your most productive, well-behaved colonies to start a new one.
And let's see, where's my queen? There she is. Right there. Just walking to the other side. So I'm going to take my queen cage. Old-fashioned queen cage, homemade. You can use scrap material from making bottom boards. And I'm just going to get her in here. And we're going to put a couple of pendants in there with her. All right, so now we have our queen. Now I can take my time doing whatever I want to with this hive. I've got her in here. One thing that you can do to introduce her to a new colony and you don't have any sugar candy is you take a piece of tissue paper, 1-ply tissue paper. So I'm going to peel 1 ply off of this. So when you're introducing her to a new hive, you don't need sugar candy. You could just use this method. You can either stick it inside, like so, and the bees will chew through that. Just put it upside down in between the frames and they'll chew through it. The other way to do this is to just lay it flat over the top. Put a rubber band around it. It's nice and solid, and it gives the queen a place to hide if they haven't accepted her yet, until they do accept her, and by the time they chew through the tissue paper, they've accepted her. So we're gonna put this new queen, even though I said we were going to do a split, I'm actually going to put it in this colony right here because I did an inspection in this one earlier and I found out they were queenless. So I want to introduce a new queen. They have enough queen cells in that hive to re-queen themselves. And we're going to give these bees a chance to let out the new queen. So I'm just going to make a little room between my frames. And we'll just come back in a few days and make sure they've released her. If you were wondering what the cute little bell sounds were, it's my sidekicks, Miss Piggy and her little piglets. They follow me everywhere in the bee yard.
You don't have to buy expensive extracting equipment. You can join a club that gives its members access, or find another beekeeper who's willing to rent out their honey house. You can check out books at your public library. That way you don't have to buy them. You can also make special requests if you don't see what you're looking for. You can ask them to subscribe to a monthly bee journal. There's also lots of free knowledge on the internet. There's Facebook pages dedicated just to beekeeping in your area. You can also ask beekeepers here if you don't belong to a club. And of course, my favorite is Professor YouTube at YouTube University. Just keep in mind that just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it works. So try it out for yourself and do your own research. Thank you for watching this presentation. You can find us on Facebook at Honey Please or on our website at savannahbeeremoval.com. You can also email us and we'd be happy to answer any questions.